So, Russ, you are one of three challengers who is challenging a long-time Democratic congressperson in New Jersey, in New Jersey's 6th district. First, tell us about the 6th district in New Jersey.
So the 6th district in New Jersey is Middlesex and Monmouth counties, and we have some big urban areas. Edison, Woodbridge, South, and Perth Amboy. And we also have a lot of shoreline that stretches down the central New Jersey part of the shore, but altogether it's about 10 miles of shoreline. And we really are concerned about the rising tides because we're still dealing with the effects of Hurricane Sandy even today. There are still people that aren't in their houses from Hurricane Sandy.
Wow.
And our district is really, really concerned about the high price of health insurance, too.
And give me a sense of the folks living there. I mean, is this a wealthy district? Is it working class, a mixture? Who lives there?
So it's a good mixture of working class people. The median income is about $85,000 a year, which sounds like a lot, but New Jersey is one of the most expensive states to live in the country. And, we have about 730,000 people, maybe 550,000 that are going to vote. I mean, are voting eligible. I wish 550,000 would vote.
Right.
But it's a wide range, but people here are still feeling the squeeze, so to speak.
I understand. Okay, and so give me a sense of why you jumped into this race. You got a 17-term congressman. That's pretty amazing. Go ahead.
A 17-term congressman, yeah, and the district is rated at least +9 Democratic. So for me, I'm a dad, and I spend a lot of time thinking about what world will I leave for my son. And right now, the science has told us that his quality of life will be shaped by how we address the climate crisis right now. And if we don't clean up the world we live in by 2030, he may be facing a world of where he has to fight for food and water, living on an unstable planet, a really hot planet, choking on air pollution. And I literally have nightmares of holding my son and him, seeing him asking me, "What did you do when the world was on fire, Dad? What did you do when the hurricanes were getting worse and when the wildlife was dying?" And I want to be able to say to my son, I did everything that I could to make sure that we cleaned up the world. We ended the fossil fuel industry. We transitioned to a world of renewable energy. And a couple of things happened that really pushed me into this race. First, my representative, who's been there for a long time, a Democrat, he said the Green New Deal was impossible. And I actually think it's mandatory to go 100% renewable energy ASAP. And we have to clean up our communities too. And, about 3 or 4 months ago, the fossil fuel industry tried to put a pipeline and a gas pumping station that would push fracked gas through my township and pollute the air that my son breathes.
Wow. And
my representative did nothing but send a letter and sent a surrogate, and because he doesn't care about the fossil fuel pipelines. Well, I decided that that's not enough, and we need a representative that will truly fight for a better future for our families here, and that truly understands the threat of the fossil fuel industry and the climate crisis.
It's interesting because I think there's I feel like I could do that someone could teach 3 months of a political science course by hearing what you've just said and me just adding that Frank Pallone, the Democrat that you're challenging, is the House Energy and Commerce Committee chairman. And then I would add that he has raised $1.4 million over the course of the first 9 months of this year. And I'm going to just take a wild guess that if I was to look at the breakdown of where that 1.4 million came from and his $3 million campaign war chest, where that money came from, I'm going to take a guess that it's come, at least in part, from the fossil fuel industry. Would I be right in that instance?
Yeah, you would be right. He takes fossil fuel money.
And I think that explains a lot in terms of why this guy is seeing a challenge. In your case, it explains a lot there. So I want to talk about, I mean, you obviously are a supporter of the Green New Deal. And I want to talk about some of the issue sets that you do support. Talk just a little bit more about the Green New Deal and the new jobs and a job guarantee that you list on your website at Cirincione 2020.
Yeah, thanks for reading the website, Sam. Appreciate that. So basically, the federal jobs guarantee will provide a baseline for employment. If anybody needs to develop new skills, they can get a good government job doing the work that we need done in our communities. And it's interesting to me because we can end unemployment in this country with the jobs guarantee and also address our needs in our communities. So it's very exciting that we will end unemployment. 15 million people can get a job if they need it. And it will always provide the baseline and a union jobs, a high salary as well. And it will be a very democratized process where we can come together in our communities and decide what we want to get done, what we want to build. We want to build high-speed rails. We want to build offshore wind farms. We want to build solar panel farms. We can get together as communities, vote on these specific projects, and we can get the federal funding as a federal grant from the federal government, but we decide how we do it. And it's what democracy was always supposed to be, enabling us and empowering us to make decisions in our communities and create community jobs so we don't have to all commute 2 hours a day to a job far, far away. We can rebuild our communities here and take us to a path forward that, do the things that we want to do.
Talk to me about Medicare for all and the single payer system. We hear a lot of people, in the presidential race say, I support Medicare for all. And then they add 2 or 3 words to that. Something I support Medicare for all for people who want it, or I support Medicare for all for part of Americans. Where are you on Medicare for all?
Medicare for all, true single payer, universal coverage guaranteed as a right for everyone. That is the only way forward. Healthcare is a human right. If we all get sick at some point, and our coverage must be guaranteed. So all of these other politicians that are adding qualifiers to it, those aren't true universal coverage. And that's not what we're about. There's 45,000 people in my district that have no health insurance. New Jersey is the 5th highest in terms of premiums in the country. We pay about $17,500 a year for our premiums and deductibles. We are being price gouged by the for-profit insurance industry, and then we're not even covered all the way if we really get sick. And it's unacceptable to me. That kind of system is outdated, and we're going to make the for-profit insurance industry obsolete by switching to Medicare for all, single-payer, universal coverage, and we're going to save a lot of money, and we're going to save a lot of lives in the process.
Let me ask you, before we talk about some of the other issues that you are running on, because you mentioned that you're running on the Green New Deal and the new jobs and a federal jobs guarantee, as well as, full-on legit Medicare for all, a single-payer system. Before we get to some of the other issues that you're running on, give me a sense of just, what your background has been, what your qualifications are.
So I have a lot of experience with working within government, right? So I've been a public service attorney working for state government, and we defend housing justice We fight for affordable housing through the rent stabilization law in New York State. And, I've just made sure that the rules apply to everyone. And I've gone into courtrooms and stood, face to face with big money and made sure that the judges applied the same rules to everybody and made sure the law was followed to the T. And I even have legislative experience. I drafted a few bills, and one became law in June. It protects tenants that live in manufactured homes from predatory lending practices. And, as a government attorney, we have ethical rules that apply to us. We are supposed to remain loyal to the state. And I believe in a duty of loyalty to the people who we're supposed to represent. A fiduciary duty, it's commonly called. And that's the kind of ethical rules that I want to apply when I'm in Congress. I will always stay loyal to the people because I'm rejecting corporate cash, and I pledge to do so for my entire career. So I have experience from a legislative side and from a standing up to big money side, and that's really going to be important when I'm in Congress.
So let's talk about housing, because, we don't hear that as much as I think we should from candidates across the board, frankly. Tell us about the housing issue. What needs to be done? What is the problem? I think a lot of people, that is an issue that just does not get forefronted in American society, and it really should be one of the rights that we have as citizens of this country.
You're right. It should be a guaranteed right for all. We have 500,000 homeless people in this country, and 25% of those are children. No one should be homeless in America, because a home is a requirement for all people. That's a baseline. That's where you come home to relax, to unplug, to prepare for the next day. Really, the problem in America is there has not been a federal program or federal investment in actually building affordable housing. And, the word affordable housing is supposed to mean no one should be spending more than a third of their income on housing. And I really believe in that, but I do think that it should be guaranteed as a right. And all of our federal programs really worsen the problem. So Section 8 is one of the biggest programs where it provides just checks for rent to tenants, and that goes to the pocket of the landlords. But it's completely at the whim of the market. And as rents keep on going up and up and up, the Section 8 has to pay out more money, but it's not addressing the problem that there's not enough housing. The private market that builds housing, which we completely rely on, has no incentive to build more housing, because if they build more housing, the price drops and they make less money. Yeah.
So really, what's the answer? Federal government's got to step in and start funding either state and municipal investment in actual housing.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And we have to undo the draconian rules that have barred the federal government from doing those investments. We can't just keep repairing the outdated housing stock we have now. We have to replace it. And our population is exploding, and we have to keep up with the pace of that by building new housing.
This is if the government had a financial advisor, they would say, you have the cash to buy. Why are you renting at this point? I think that would be the obvious thing that we would do. All right, listen, we just have 1 minute left or so, or a minute and a half left here. How do you, and we didn't get a chance to talk about your cancel student debt proposal. I would encourage people to go visit your website at Cirincione2020.com to check out your stance on all these issues. But how do you, as a government lawyer, go up against a guy who's got $3 million in his war chest? What are you looking for in terms of help from people?
So the best thing we can do is we're running a grassroots campaign. We're tapping all the progressive activists, all the multiple activist organizations in this county, and we're we're getting feet on the ground. We're prepping up our ground game, and we're going to have a massive ground game. We have plenty of volunteers right now. We have about 25 volunteers in person, and we have about 30 online. So, I mean, online boosting is very important. And really, we're up against such a massive behemoth of corporate cash, and the only way we're going to win is with grassroots support. And of course, if anybody could make a donation, that's much appreciated. But really, we're fighting for the people, and the people are turning out to fight for us here too.
Well, that's good to hear, and I should just say, in fairness, there's a couple other folks who are also running against Frank Pallone. Folks can check them out in New Jersey 6th, but for people who want more information, they can go to your website, Cirincione2020.com. Russ Cirincione, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.